Hello, I'm Doug McConnell, and we've got some great discoveries for you out here along the open road.
We'll explore the secret lives of two rare species, recently discovered, living on one of the Bay Area's highest peaks.
It wasn't an instant success story. It took a lot of work, a lot of diligence to find them.
We'll visit coastal ponds, where a rich agricultural legacy supports a hopeful future for wildlife.
You may see a deer or even mountain lion come down to these ponds to drink water, to look for their prey.
And we'll step into nature and soak up its healing powers. Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm one of the producers at Open Road. Us behind-the-scenes guys are filling in for Doug McConnell as he heals from some medical issues. We wish him a speedy recovery so he can get back to these wild and wonderful places he loves so much. We hope you enjoy the show. High atop Mount Umunhum, in Mid-Penn's Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve, a team of biologists are searching for the charming but elusive Santa Cruz kangaroo rat.
Okay, 6-4A looks empty, but 6-4B is closed, so we're gonna check it. We can feel somebody in there. Yep, there's a kangaroo rat.
These cute critters with a funny name are actually a keystone species, helping maintain balance in the chaparral habitat, but their very presence here was shrouded in mystery.
We did not know that Santa Cruz kangaroo rats were up here until 2019. So this is a very recent discovery for us.
Kangaroo rats are just one of many species, like purple martin, mountain lion, and bobcat, that make their home here, and like the very mountain itself, are making a comeback.
Just goes to show, like, protecting lands is incredibly important because not only are you protecting the species that you know are there may be something there that's a complete mystery and a complete surprise that you are then also protecting.
Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District protects 70,000 acres across 27 preserves throughout the greater Santa Cruz Mountains region. From coastal prairies to redwood forests, oak woodlands, and bay wetlands. But standing high above them all is Sierra Azul Open Space Preserve.
There's a lot of things that make Sierra Azul a unique preserve, but number one is it's just sheer size. It's massive, not only in acreage, but in elevation.
At 3,400 feet tall, Mount Umunhum defines the Sierra Azul skyline. It's a local landmark that can be seen from miles around. But up close, in the folds of its protected valleys, and on the exposed ridgelines with breathtaking views, the mountain's secrets are slowly being revealed.
As a space, it's very inspiring and it's extremely significant, and I'm really pleased to be working with a unique species as well that we find out here.
When we visited Mount back in 2013, the peak was littered with the abandoned remains of the old Alameda Air Station. In the years since, we've watched Mid-Penn restore this mountaintop, bringing back some of its natural shape and welcoming back the original stewards and the public. Mid-Penn also restored the native habitat, with scores of volunteers gently planting tender roots into rocky soil. And as the plants are reclaiming this mountaintop, so too are the animals. Local photographer and ecologist Ken Hickman has been helping Mid-Penn document the diversity of wildlife that finds sanctuary on these protected lands. His photos capture moments of curiosity, play, and rest.
Ken Hickman is just a really great individual and a very, very determined person who came into Mid-Penn about 10 years ago and basically said, hey, I'm really interested in finding rare and unusual species that haven't been found in the Santa Cruz Mountains for many, many decades.
With a permit from Mid-Penn and a background in engineering, Ken designed and built custom wildlife cameras and placed them strategically in the preserve. His photos reveal species both familiar and rare, like the Santa Cruz kangaroo rat, whose presence in the area had been noted long ago, but hadn't been seen in the area in over 75 years.
It wasn't an instant success story. It took a lot of work, a lot of diligence to find them. But yeah, when he finally did and we saw those photos, we were awestruck. And we were so excited to have an opportunity to help this species out and to just know that we had them on our lands.
Santa Cruz kangaroo rats are an endemic species found only in the Santa Cruz Mountains. They're actually not rats. They're more closely related to chipmunks. Their seed caches help manzanitas continue to thrive, and their burrows provide shelter for toads, snakes, and other animals. They're a keystone species, and Ken's photos provided proof that they're still here.
Here at Mid-Penn, we take that kind of thing very seriously. Obviously, we got very excited about it. But the first question for us was, where are they? How do we document where they are on the landscape? And then, is there anything we need to do management-wise to change our practices to make sure that they stay on the landscape?
To answer those questions, and many others, Mid-Penn partnered with biologists from the University of California, Santa Cruz to study this newfound population.
Got 2, 3, empty, empty. 2, 7 is Today we deployed about 200 Sherman traps. They're metal steel traps that we use to catch small mammals. These ones are kangaroo rat length for the comfort and safety of the animal. We go ahead and bait them at about sunset, and then we check them at sunrise before it gets too hot.
The traps allow researchers to briefly capture this hard-to-find species and collect valuable data.
We're taking veg data, we're taking morphometrics, so their body length, ear length, tail length, everything like that.
This study is helping paint a picture of the whole environment, from the type of plants that kangaroo rats prefer to the other species that live here too.
We have a pinyon mouse. This is Peromyscus truei. It's hard to tell, but when you're mice people like we are and we stare at mice all day, you can really tell.
The team catches a variety of mice and other small mammals, noting their presence and releasing them back into the wild to go about their lives.
So we have here a San Francisco dusky-footed wood rat, which is actually a species of special concern here in California. It's also kind of an interesting sign here in this K-rat habitat to find a wood rat because, as the name implies, wood rats tend to be in more forested areas. So it's kind of a sign that this habitat is changing through time and becoming more forested and less open.
More pine trees and wood rats means less chaparral habitat, the open environment Santa Cruz kangaroo rats depend on.
If you don't have regular fire intervals in places like this, the chaparral eventually does go away and it closes up. So in the absence of those fire regimes, we need to think about other potential strategies for keeping this area open.
After 3 days of trapping, they only found 4 individuals. A reminder of just how rare Santa Cruz kangaroo rats are, and how important this research is for understanding and ultimately protecting them.
It is a little disheartening because we are concerned about the population here and if they are thriving, if they are succeeding. And so getting little indicators like that might tell us that they're not doing as great, and that makes us feel much more urgent that we need to push things forward. These kangaroo rats need help now. And we can do that, we can help them.
About 2 miles north of here on Mount Thayer, another species is settling into their new home, the purple martin. a type of swallow thought to no longer exist in Santa Clara County until it was discovered nesting in abandoned telephone poles during Midpen's restoration of Mount Umunhum.
The males have this beautiful dark iridescent purple coloration when they're in their breeding plumage, and so they're really interesting to observe when they're perched on telephone poles or wires, or when they're flying around.
To help the purple martin better establish itself here, Midpen staff designed and built these structures, which include nest cameras, giving us a glimpse into the bird's family life and inner world.
I think this project is an example of how, as an agency, we're really invested in supporting the natural resources that are present in our preserves. We've found, these really unique and special species, and we are invested in conserving their habitat, certainly, but also supporting and enhancing them as much as possible. I think that just directly ties into our mission of conserving and preserving the natural resources that we find here in our preserves.
Purple martin, kangaroo rat, and all the species that call this mountain home depend on preserves like Sierra Azul and all the lands that Midpen protects and welcomes us to enjoy.
I think when folks visit Mount Umunhum, they should remember that this is an incredibly unique area, and they're sort of entering the space that supports a number of really unique species that we can all sort of enjoy and share together while we're here enjoying the site.
When we come back, cattle support conservation along the coast and the healing powers of nature.
Open Road is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
Agriculture has a rich history along the peninsula coast, and Midpen keeps that heritage alive by preserving open space and partnering with ranchers to achieve its conservation goals. A prime example of that are the ponds built for cattle. These ponds dot the landscape and benefit both cattle and wildlife. And we have with us Julie Anderson, biologist with Midpen. Julie, thank you for joining us. So you have all of these agricultural ponds scattered across Midpen preserves. What are some of the wildlife that use and depend on these water sources?
Ponds are really cool because they're teeming with life. Literally things that fly, land, and explore the ponds. Things that swim live in the ponds. And things that live on land come to the ponds to drink. Some ponds have fish. Some ponds have frogs. All sorts of aquatic life, little aquatic insects. You may see a deer or even mountain lion come down to these ponds to drink water, to look for their prey that might also be at the ponds. We've got some protected species that rely on the ponds, not just for eating, but for breeding. One of the cool species is a California red-legged frog. It's our state amphibian here in California. And it used to historically use creeks, but some of our creeks are over allocated. There isn't as much water, but these ponds are these nice places that hold water longer during the time of the year that the frogs need to find each other, to mate, lay their eggs, have their eggs hatch into tadpoles, grow into little froglets, and then leave the pond to create that cycle all over again the next year.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. So they're so important to so many animals. What is Midpen doing to make sure that these ponds persist and thrive?
Yeah, so a lot of these ponds are human-made. They were created often by early ranchers as water sources for their cattle, and sometimes 50 or more years ago, and made of earthen berms that's just dirt. And that can blow out, especially when we have big storms like we just did. and we can lose a pond. And so what we want to do is inspect our ponds each year, just physically. How are they doing? Is the inlet flowing? Is the outlet flowing? Are there any obstructions? Is the berm intact? Do we need to do any earthwork on the berm? Sometimes using heavy machinery. That's what created these ponds, and sometimes that's what's needed to restore these ponds. We do all sorts of work, anything from hand removing invasive plants to bringing in a great big excavator and digging some of that muck out of the pond.
Now, these ponds were originally built for cattle, and cattle continue to use them. How do cattle help contribute to Mid-Penn's conservation goals out here?
Yeah, we have a conservation grazing program where we really manage the number of cows on the land, how they're using the land, where they are. We try to protect sensitive areas. And some ponds actually benefit from cattle. They can come in and eat some of the vegetation that might be growing up and kind of choking out the rest of the water, the open water that is so needed for animals to move across and be able to dive and find their food in the water. They also really manage the vegetation around the pond. And a lot of critters live in little burrows right next to the pond, and they'll come down and they need a nice open path. So we find that cattle are not only a tool, they're really important in that without them, we wouldn't have that mosaic of habitats that so many different animals need surrounding the ponds.
Well, that sounds like a recipe for success. Thank you to Mid-Penn for all you're doing out there, and glad to know it's working for everyone.
Absolutely, Jordan. Ponds are one of my favorite places on the preserves.
When we come back, students saved by nature and more wildlife moments on the mountain. The demands and stresses of modern life can weigh heavily on us. But it only takes a sunbeam through the canopy, or the sounds of a gentle creek, for the healing power of nature to embrace us, slowing things down and opening us up. And for the organization Saved by Nature, helping people experience these gifts is their mission. And we have joining us today Richard Tejada, founder of Saved by Nature. Richard, thank you for joining us. And why did you start this group, Saved by Nature?
Thank you, Jordan. Well, I started Saved by Nature to fill in the gaps that I was seeing after 10 years of experience of working in parks. And so Saved by Nature was created to provide opportunities for everyone, with an emphasis on those that come from underserved communities or communities that otherwise wouldn't have that opportunity.
And we joined one of those groups out at Russian Ridge not too long ago, a group of students. Please tell us about who they were and what kind of experience you were providing for them.
So they were from the Boys and Girls Club of Silicon Valley, which I'm alumnus of, and they were experienced their first trip for some, not only to nature, but to a Mid-Penn preserve. And it's very special because when they get there, the panoramic views are amazing, where they can see all the way to the Pacific Ocean from the Santa Cruz Mountains. You know, we allow them to pull out their phones and engage with the different photos because it's also a golden hour where the sun is coming down, and it's just an amazing experience. And they also get to go on a hike and enjoy the oak forest there, the ancient oak forest. And it's just an opportunity to plant a seed in our youth in hopes that they'll see nature in the future as a way of escaping and as a way of, you know, just kind of dealing with maybe everyday problems that they may have in the inner city, and knowing that, hey, I had a great time at this mid-preserve in the past, and maybe I can do that again with my friends and family.
It was a wonderful day, really neat group of students that were out there. You work with Mid-Penn a lot on these to provide these opportunities. Please tell us about that partnership and how you work together.
Yeah, so we're able to make the Boys and Girls Club field trips possible through a grant from Mid-Penn, and that allows us to provide charter bus transportation materials as well as pay for staff. And it's so important as a nonprofit organization, just starting program in 2019, to have the support of larger organizations like Mid-Penn, which allow us to do our important work in the community.
It's a terrific partnership. So glad to hear it. Just finally, what would be your message to the general public about the importance of getting out on places like Mid-Penn lands and other open spaces?
Well, the hopes is to build an affinity for nature as far as our youth so that they become stewards. And yeah, and so, that's the overall goal, as well as just planting a seed in the kids about nature. It's safe, it's fun, and it's a way to heal physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Wonderful work you do, really important. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you and all the people you help out on the trail.
Likewise, I'll see you out on the trail. Thank you, Jordan.
When we come back, more of Ken Hickman's captured wildlife moments on the mountaintop.
Open Road is made possible by the generous support of our underwriters, dedicated to protecting our natural and historical treasures in the Bay Area and beyond. Additional support is provided by these institutions, also caring for our special environmental and cultural legacies and making them accessible to each and every one of us, now and for all time.
We'll leave you tonight with a few more of Ken Hickman's captured moments on the mountain. A rare glimpse of the wildlife that surround us, but are rarely seen. For more information about Mid-Penn, Saved by Nature, or any of the places we visited, go to nbcbayarea.com/openroad.
Well, that's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Doug McConnell, and we'll see you next time right here with more discoveries along the open road.